Sometimes we believe that our life is defined by what happens on the outside: work, relationships, problems, opportunities. But Deepak Chopra reminds us of something much deeper. What truly shapes our experience is not what happens, but how we feel about it. Changing how we feel on the inside transforms the way we see, react, and live. Here we will explore how that transformation works, why our emotions and thoughts have such power over our lives, and how we can start shifting the needle from within to live with more peace, clarity, and purpose. Most people are convinced that reality is fixed, like a wall of concrete. It is what it is, we say. Yet every experience passes through the filter of our mind and emotions. The same event can be lived in opposite ways. Losing a job can feel like the end of the world for one person, while for another it becomes the opportunity that pushes them towards their true vocation. The difference does not lie in the event itself, but in the interpretation we give it, in the emotion we choose to cultivate. Chopra says that we are the creators of our experience, not because we invent the events, but because how we feel completely changes the way we go through them, and that way defines our life. Emotions are not just fleeting reactions. They are energy in motion. Every time we feel fear, sadness, anger, joy, or gratitude, our body releases chemicals, hormones, and signals that affect every single cell. Science confirms this. Chronic stress weakens the immune system. Gratitude strengthens the heart. Meditation reduces inflammation. These are not abstract ideas. They are physical realities. This means that changing how you feel is not a superficial gesture. It is literally transforming the chemistry of your body and, over time, your health and vitality. How often do we say, "When I have a partner, I'll be happy. When I earn more money, I'll feel at peace. When everything falls into place, only then will I be able to enjoy myself." That is the most common mistake, postponing our well-being until external conditions, which we do not control, change. What Chopra proposes is the opposite. First change how you feel, and the outside begins to respond to that. It is not magic. It is coherence. A person who feels calm makes clearer decisions, speaks differently, transmits peace. A person who feels confident dares to take steps that another would not. That creates different realities. Everything begins with awareness. If we are not conscious of what we feel, we live on autopilot, repeating patterns. Awareness is like switching on a light in a dark room. When you can see what is there, you can choose. Chopra insists that awareness is not just attention, but the ability to observe without judgment. Example, instead of saying, "I'm a disaster because I'm anxious," you can observe, "Right now, I feel anxious." That distance between what you are and what you feel opens the space for change. One of Chopra's strongest teachings is that there is always a space between what happens and how we respond. That space is our freedom. We cannot choose what happens, but we can choose how we live it. And that repeated choice, day after day, shapes our life. You can choose to stay in anger or to let go. You can choose to stay in complaint or to give thanks for what you do have. And each choice shifts your vibration, your energy, and your direction. What we feel is fueled by what we think. Chopra compares thoughts to seeds we plant in the soil of our mind. If we sow thoughts of fear, distrust will grow. If we sow thoughts of gratitude, well-being will flourish. It is not about denying reality, but deciding which thoughts deserve our attention and which do not. The practice here is to cultivate thoughts that lift us higher, to ask ourselves, does this thought bring me peace or take it away? Does it open me up or close me down? Few practices change how we feel as much as gratitude. Chopra mentions it as one of the quickest keys to shifting our inner state. Gratitude is not about denying what is difficult, but recognizing the good that does exist. When we give thanks, our attention moves from what is missing to what is present, and that transforms the vibration with which we live. A simple exercise. Each night, write down 3 things you are grateful for. In a short time, your perception of life changes radically. The body does not lie. When we are tense, worried, or resentful, the body shows it in pain, insomnia, rigidity. When we cultivate calm, lightness, energy, and health appear. Changing how you feel not only shifts your mental state, but also your biology. This is why Chopra integrates meditation, breathing, and movement into his teachings, because body and mind are one. Meditation is the central tool in Chopra's teachings, not because it is fashionable, but because it trains the mind to return to the present, to the center, and to stop being trapped in the wheel of thought. When you meditate, you do not erase the external world, but you create an inner space where you can choose how to feel. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes to access that place, even in the midst of chaos. Changing how you feel is not like flicking a switch. It is a process. One day you notice yourself reacting differently to something that used to overwhelm you, and you realize you have grown. Chopra insists on patience. Every practice, every conscious breath, every chosen thought is another brick in the building of a fuller life. Thousands of people who have practiced these teachings tell how, by changing their inner state, their life changed on the outside. People who left chronic stress behind and regained health, who moved from toxic relationships to healthy bonds, who found purpose after years of emptiness. It is not theory, it is lived experience. You do not need to wait until Monday or a big spiritual retreat. You can start right now with simple steps. Pause for a few seconds to breathe before reacting. Observe what you feel without judgment. Choose a thought that brings you calm instead of one that fuels fear. Write down 3 things you are grateful for today. Small steps which, repeated, change the entire course of your life. When we change how we feel, we stop living from fear and begin to live from the heart. That means acting not from obligation or from lack, but from fullness. A person who lives from the heart spreads peace, inspires trust, and opens pathways. In this way, personal change becomes collective change. Chopra reminds us that life always reflects our inner state. If we live with resentment, we encounter conflict. If we live with gratitude, we encounter blessings. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because our perception filters and selects what we see. And what we see determines how we act, and that in turn creates new realities. When you change how you feel, you change how you live, is not just a pretty phrase. It is a guide for life. It is not about denying pain or forcing joy, but about reclaiming the power to choose how we want to inhabit each moment. Because what we feel today builds tomorrow. And when we learn to choose inner states of calm, gratitude, and trust, life inevitably begins to reflect that transformation. Your life does not change by waiting for everything outside to fall into place. Your life changes when you decide to change how you feel inside, and that change is within reach of every breath.